By the Montana Television Network. This is the noon news from Montana's news leader.
Good afternoon, and thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Aja Goare. Special counsel Robert Mueller raised the possibility of issuing a subpoena for President Trump if he does not agree to answer questions about the Russia investigation. That's according to Mr. Trump's former lawyer. CBS's Mo Lange has more.
President Trump attended the ceremonial swearing-in of Secretary of State Mike Pompeo Wednesday amid new signs of escalating tension between the president's legal team and special counsel Robert Mueller. One of the president's former lawyers tells the Associated Press Mueller raised the idea of a subpoena during a meeting in early March to force the president to testify under oath. In January, the president told reporters he was interested in talking with the special counsel.
I would love to do that. I'd like to do it as soon as possible.
But in a tweet this morning, the president once again called the investigation a witch hunt, dismissing claims of collusion as a hoax and obstruction of justice as a setup and trap. A subpoena has always been an option for the special counsel, but to use one on a sitting president would be an extraordinary move. If Mueller indeed issued one, the president could fight it in court or invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination.
The bare minimum for Mueller is going to be to get some answers from Trump under oath. No prosecutor would settle for less.
Meanwhile, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, who oversees Mueller's investigation, pushed back against reports that Republican lawmakers were drafting articles of impeachment against him.
I think they should understand by now the Department of Justice is not going to be extorted.
Republican members of the House Freedom Caucus say impeachment would be used against Rosenstein as a last resort. Mo Lange, CBS News, the White House.
And also on that front, White House lawyer Ty Cobb is leaving his position for retirement. The New York Times is reporting attorney Emmett Flood will replace Cobb as the president deals with Mueller's investigation. Here in Montana, Lincoln County authorities are advising residents to stay inside and lock their doors as they search for a man who is said to be armed and suicidal. A code red alert issued by the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office for an area between McGinnis Meadows at the Flathead County line. The Lincoln County Sheriff's Office said in a Facebook post today that the man may be in the Happy's Inn area. Authorities are asking residents not to call dispatch for updates and to keep traffic in the area to a minimum. A standoff in Billings carried on for over 2 hours Tuesday night when the suspect exchanged gunfire with law enforcement. MTN's Samantha Harrelson has details about that incident and the man's arrest.
Just before 5 p.m. on Tuesday, 2 probation and parole officers knocked on the door of a residence on 2nd Avenue North. They were met with gunfire.
2 probation officers returned fire. They were not hit. We did not know at the time whether or not the individual in the house had been hit.
For the next 2 hours, local, state, and federal law enforcement were staged outside the residence as the male suspect was barricaded inside. Authorities used the Bear, an armored vehicle, to break down the front door of the residence.
From there, the officers could see that the individual was there. He was down. He had been injured. There was a rifle that was within close proximity.
They continued to negotiate, eventually firing 2 non-lethal beanbag rounds at the suspect. The 2-hour standoff coming to an end with a bang, as authorities used a flashbang to disorient the man before entering the building.
Again, the whole idea, isolate, apply time, and then mitigate the thing. And so, wonderful job. I'm very, very pleased that that we're not having another officer-involved shooting where we have a death.
Authority has now been turned over to the State Department of Criminal Investigations, who are in charge of the crime scene. In Billings, Samantha Harrelson, MTN News.
Thank you, Samantha. And the 2 probation and parole officers will now go through their department's protocol for officer-involved shootings. 2 Butte residents tied to a fatal shooting at a Helena motel will spend time in federal prison for drug charges. 42-year-old Brandon LeClaire was sentenced to 14 years in prison, and 30-year-old Travis Holly Stevens sentenced to 9 years behind bars. LeClaire admitted he was dealing meth for Stevens in 2016. LeClaire was initially charged in state court with deliberate homicide for the death of Kenneth Purcell Jr. Purcell was fatally shot when a fight broke out between him and LeClaire, but that charge was dropped as part of an agreement between federal and state prosecutors. A scary situation at Montana State University this week after a suspicious letter sent one MSU employee to the hospital. The blank letter addressed to the Native American Studies Department in Wilson Hall arrived around noon Monday. An unidentified employee opened the letter and immediately felt dizzy and nauseous. The employee was sent to the hospital and later released. Hazmat crews tested the letter but found no toxic substances. No one else fell ill, and officials determined there was no threat to campus. The university has been in touch with the FBI as they await further test results. Well, the search is ongoing today for a Wolf Point man who jumped into the Missouri River to save someone from drowning last Friday. The other person made it out, but 40-year-old Jason Azure did not resurface. Sonar equipment and a camera are now being used to search in areas unsafe for divers. Governor Steve Bullock declaring a statewide flooding emergency in Montana today. This morning, the governor issued an updated executive order to provide state support where needed to local and tribal jurisdictions. He says recent rainfall and rapid snow melt is causing rivers and streams to rise out of their banks and flood Montana towns. This executive order allows the governor to mobilize state resources and the Montana National Guard to protect life, health, and property. It also allows access to emergency funds. Western and north central Montana have been hardest hit. And with that in mind, we turn now to weather scene with Ed McIntosh. And how are those flooding areas looking today?
You know, we still have some problem areas, Asia, as we take a look at the map and kind of localize it for you a little bit. Of course, the Clark Fork right around the Missoula area, and then a wide area where we have some localized flooding with a flood advisory into effect from Great Falls south towards Helena, White Sulphur Springs, and Marr County, and then also some localized flooding along the Milk River near Glasgow and Nashua, just moving above flood stage there. This shows you the latest computer analysis about where we have snow in the mountains, and those purple and blue shades show you it's quite a bit of snow, as we're still looking at the snowpack to be 108 to 198% of what we would normally see this time of the year. More on the forecast coming up in a few minutes.
Thanks, Ed. We'll check back in. An elderly visitor at Old Faithful in Yellowstone National Park is recovering today after she was injured by a bison. According to a park press release, the 72-year-old Boise woman was butted in the thigh, pushed and tossed off a trail on Tuesday. The woman did not see the bison as she walked around a bend in the trail and was not able to move out of the way in time. The woman suffered minor injuries. Park officials said this is the first incident of a bison injuring a visitor this year. However, there was one incident last year and 5 in 2015. A major staffing shuffle is underway at Yellowstone as Park Superintendent Dan Wenk gets a new assignment. The Washington Post reports Wenk will be sent to Washington, D.C. to the office that supervises the National Capital Parks region. The head of the Park Service Omaha office, Cameron Shawley, would then take over as Yellowstone Park Superintendent.
We would anticipate and we would weigh in to make sure that whoever comes after Dan, if there is a replacement for Dan if this does come to pass, that they have a deep understanding of the conservation issues that face Yellowstone.
Byrd says Yellowstone's top issues include overcrowding, habitat protection in both the park and surrounding areas, and protection of wildlife. Switching gears, Gibson Brand Inc., famous for its world-renowned guitars, is filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Tuesday's announcement follows a mounting decline in sales. Gibson was founded in 1894 and owns an acoustic guitar manufacturing branch in Bozeman. A spokesperson for Gibson said in a statement to MTN News that operations at Bozeman location will continue as normal. Gibson's musical instrument business employs more than 875 employees. Still to come on the noon news, emergency crews are on the scene of a military plane crash in Georgia. We'll take you there for the details. First, Ed has our weather forecast. Stay with us.
You're watching MTN News with Aja Goare, Storm Tracker weather with Ed McIntosh, and farm and ranch news from the Northern Egg Network. This is the noon news on Q2, Montana's news leader.